डोर बंद कर दो। Good evening, everyone. I hope you all can hear me, and we are here today to discuss the CLAT sample paper 1. Now, CLATs had given two sample papers to all of you to help you understand the method of the paper. In the past, also in the year 2020, sample papers were provided by the CLAT consortium. And here again, this time, the sample papers that were provided confirm two things: that reading-based sections continue to be reading-based sections. The reading-based sections have short passages. Some of them are not more than 3 paragraphs, 3 short paragraphs, word limited to about 500 to 600 per passage. These passages are eclectic in nature. Eclectic in nature basically means they cover a variety of topics. These variety of topics confirm the fact that you are supposed to read from a variety of sources: literature, newspapers, contemporary social theory, so history. So all these sources continue to, encourage you to read and find out answers on the spot. Now, this time again, just like the 2020 sample papers, the sample papers have questions. For example, if I talk about the English section, questions cover a variety of types such as specific detail, central idea. Some of them, one or two that I noticed in sample paper 1, also have, at least a mention of figures of speeches. There is grammar and vocabulary through the passages. So this was the nature of the questions that was put forth in the year 2020 as well, and in the paper 2020. Then in the years 21 and for 2020 sample papers for the exam in 21. Then 21, 22, they gave almost the same papers like the sample paper. Of course, in 22, we did not see any questions on grammar. However, here there are grammar questions attached to every passage. When you write our mocks, you will also find the same variety of questions. We have grammar questions, we have vocabulary in context, and of course, all the nature and types of questions that you are expected to get in RCs, which is specific detailed questions, which is inference and theme-based questions. Now, the sample paper 1 that was released also, as I said in the beginning, contains a wide variety of topics that are covered. So we seem to be on the same page, at least with the mocks that you are writing with us, as far as the sample paper is concerned. Sample paper 2, the analysis will be following shortly in the next week. And again, we will see the level of difficulty, whether it is varying or not. Now, many students ask whether they should trust the sample papers given. Now, this trust factor arises from the fact that sometimes the sample paper deviates from the announcement that is made, and sometimes the actual paper deviates from the sample paper. So, given the history of the CLAT exam, I would say that yes, a sample paper is quite representative of what is likely to come in the paper. However, you can expect surprises. And these surprises include maybe the change in genre of questions, maybe some questions that come in the sample paper have not come in the original paper, or maybe some questions that have not been asked in the sample paper can be asked in the original paper. Right? So specifically with respect to GK and maths, one can expect certain deviations. Now for us, these deviations will be a lot, but maybe for the consortium, it'll just be like, okay, it was supposed to be maths or DI, where have we deviated? Because I think in the sample paper 1, the topics that were asked in the maths question paper seem to deviate slightly from the 2020 paper pattern announcement that was made, which specifically said that, that they're not going to give particularly classical or original maths. It will be mostly data interpretation based. So those surprises notwithstanding, the sample paper is in general representative of what you can expect in at least 75 to 80% of the paper. So we also will be keeping the same ratios in mind, the same percentage in mind, and as a result of that, we are going to continue to experiment in the mocks so that you are not caught by surprise on the day of the paper. With that, we move to the English section analysis of CLAT sample paper 1. Most of you must have given this paper, so my request is that you attend the analysis or watch the analysis after you have given the paper so that we can understand in depth what was asked and what you're supposed to be doing. So the first passage of the paper, is rather introspective, if I can use this word. A very introspective passage. Here the author, if you have, I'm sure if you've solved it, you must have read the passage. So if you have read the passage, here the author is focusing on friendship, which is in flesh and blood versus what we pretend is friendship as far as, as far as our time on social media is concerned. And the author gives you examples and comparisons. If I take you further, you can have 968 friends. But is this actual friendship? No, it's not friendship, it's distraction. So the author has made this point very, very clear, right? Now, so the author calls this friendship mostly formulae and, not the kind of friendship where you can sit and you are, going through an introspection. You're talking to someone who is like your body double and you're just, trying to understand yourself. So the author asks you these questions. How will you find the strength and wisdom to challenge an unwise order or question a wrong-headed policy? How will you find words of comforts that are more than just empty formulae? That should be formulae, not formulas, but never mind. So these are truly formidable dilemmas. The time to start preparing yourself for them is now, and you're still young, and the way to do is by thinking through these issues for yourself. Waiting until you have to confront them in practice would be like waiting for your first firefight to learn how to shoot your weapon. So you do notice, a simile over here. A simile over here where the author is asking you to introspect, asking you, to look at what actual spending time with yourself is, or maybe spending time with that one friend is, and doing away with the dilemma of social media or, online friends. So the passage, I think, was pretty simple to understand, and the questions that followed were not very difficult to handle. The first question is an analogy question. The first question is an analogy question. And this analogy question, as you can see, is one where you have to read the passage, understand the central idea, understand what author means by what friendship is, and then choose an option that resembles maximum to what the author has said. These analogy questions are constantly asked both in reading comprehension and critical reasoning. So here, of course, you have two options of people engaging in sport or studying together. So there is a purpose of meeting. For author, the purpose is only to sit and, talk. So based on the same analogy, you can probably, keep them but put them aside because you have two purpose meetings. So definitely, are you meeting your friends? Are you meeting your friends just to sit comfortably and talking to them for hours? Talking about your most guarded secret with them. So naturally here there is a purpose attached. So you keep them aside. Now Reshma and Donna are childhood friends and they trust each other. So there is trust, the thing that you are talking to yourself or your double, and not holding back, sharing your secrets. So not a very tough choice to make. Definitely this option D is far too many for author's comfort. It has to be that 1%. The author is not asking you to meet a lot of friends. The author is equating this friendship with solitude, if you paid attention in the beginning. So that means that one true friend, which is like just meeting yourself. So it's solitude. So 1.1 of course is option B. Then you have a weekend question. Now, a weekend question you're likely to find, in critical reasoning rather than in reading comprehension. But, over the years that I've seen the new pattern Clat paper, what I've come to realize and I've come to the conclusion is that English and CR is mostly treated like alike. So there are 60 questions where you have overlapping question types in both the sections. So these are 60 questions of reading and reasoning. 60 questions of reading and reasoning. So here it's a weekend question. The weekend point is about deep friendship and uninterrupted conversation with one person. That means uninterrupted with the distractions that the author is calling, which is social media. So now the first option over here actually is a option that weakens the point that internet or social media is not true friendship, or social media is only a distraction. Whereas we have to focus on the author's argument about deep friendship and uninterrupted conversation with one other person. Right? So if this were about social media as only a distraction, A would have been a good answer. But since this is not about social media and distraction, we eliminated. This is strengthening the author's argument about social media not being the platform for deep friendships. Right? Let's go ahead. A person whose interaction is limited to only a handful of people may find it hard to engage a person in a long deep. So now this says that if you are only looking at a person interacting with one other person, that is not possible unless this person is gregarious by nature. So the author says you probably should enjoy solitude, but you should have that one other person in your life. Option C negates it and says that if a person is used to only meeting a handful of people all the time, that means that person may have trust issues and may not open up to even one person at all. So this option eliminates or weakens the author's given argument. And because A is not our answer, D also gets cancelled or eliminated. Counterintuitive. Now, counterintuitive was the word that you should have seen in the third line of the passage. Now, this word in the third line of the passage was given and it was used where it says that the author says that solitude, talking to a friend is also solitude. Now, solitude means being with yourself. How can talking to a friend be solitude? Now, if talking to a friend is solitude, now this seems to be contradictory to what we understand about solitude. So counterintuitive means our intuition says that's not correct, but it is going against our intuition. So this is option D, something opposed to what our intuition says. And what is our intuition? something that is a common meaning around us. The underlined sentence in the passage above. Now, as you were reading without this question, you should have noticed this, or at least I did it. Without this question, you should have noticed the fact that something is wrong. Who you are. The moment you are reading this, you should have seen this as a question that is coming. And what you believe, not what you are, nay, your. So the first should be you are and the second should be your. A very common error in you are and your. If you are, in fact, this passage is talking about social media, and if you're on social media, you will see hundreds of your friends posting on their walls, and they're confused about you are and your. You know, it's a very, very common error. I am always controlling myself not to check somebody on their wall. You know, it's like, you know, as someone says, grammar Nazis. So it's like Nazism, so this is your and that is you are. But the good news is, you can correct it here and you can resist doing it to your friends. So if we go up, you are and your, just look for the correct option and mark it, and that is option C. Right? That is option C. Then you have this question on this, why is the author written, waiting for your first firefight is to learn how to shoot your weapon. So that means no practice. Now if you look at this question, this is a simile. So those of you who are resisting the option C, that you are correct because it is a simile. Now I wish simile had been written here as an answer. So it's not basically an explanation. The author is just comparing the two things. So, you know, another example to show what the author is trying to say, instead of using the word simile, the author has just defined it. You know, it's analogous to or similar to. So, analogous to or similar to. Why won't it be a metaphor? Because it says is like waiting. Like and as means it is not going to be a metaphor anymore. Right? So it's not exactly a criticism, it's just a alternative or an analogous example to what the author is trying to explain. And that leaves you with option D. Right? Had they just given simile, it would have made matters easiest, but they did not. The second passage is a science-based passage. So remember what I said about eclectic reading. This science-based passage just explains to you the importance of microorganisms in your gut and how these microorganisms are here to stay, and how these microorganisms are you know, probably ruling the earth because they have such far too much ability to change and adapt than we have, right? So it was an informative passage, and this passage again you just had to read and answer specific questions that followed. So a simple passage I would say and believe, right? And the author of this passage is Bill Bryson. If any of you are looking at reading good authors, sample paper 1 does give you, you know, a lot of options for reading good authors. The first passage, then Bill Bryson is a very, very famous author. At least in most of our Clat Possible libraries, we have books written by Bill Bryson. You know, you can have a look at them and borrow them to read if you're looking at something to read, like in the last month, and, you know, gearing up your reading. Later, we will see in the later chapters, Manto is also given. Manto is also there in at least our, you know, in our libraries. You can again find out. I know Manto is there at least in my library. So they have, of course, given you good texts and not tough texts, good texts, easy to read ones, good authors, and probably continuing with the idea that you all should be well read. So see this as an exercise where your reading ability is being, overhauled, and this reading ability is what you need the most in college. So let's look at these questions. As I said, simple passage and written by Bill Bryson, very good author. Can you see Bill Bryson here? So that's your author there for you. So question 2.1, now this is again specific detailed question from the passage. Options A and C are running opposite to the passage. Even if you read the passage a little bit, you will notice options A and C are running opposite. They are not adaptable. No. They cannot digest. No, they can. In fact, they are able to digest far more food than we can. Right? And it's the fact that, they are able to produce so much digestive enzyme that they are able to digest a lot more food than we can, which is option B. They do not live longer because of the digestive enzymes. They live longer because of their ability to horizontally reproduce. So that's a very simple question. Which of the following actually describes horizontal gene transfer? Now, horizontal gene transfer is given to you in the second last paragraph, like in the lines just above over there, which is the fact that they are able to reproduce so fast, a bacteria gathering DNA. Horizontal gene transfer is not about reproducing fast. It is about the fact that they are, able to take bacteria from animals that they are close to. Hence, they are able to adapt. Our genes cannot change. If no matter how much bacteria live inside us, we won't take genes from there. But the bacteria is able to take genes from even dead organisms around it. So this is horizontal gene transfer, and this makes them adapt. In fact, this makes them antibiotic resistant so easily. So option D is what, and it's given clearly with respect to horizontal gene transfer. Now other things may be true here. Rapidly and all, this is true as per the passage, but not an example of this. Not an example of this. So remember, anything given in the passage, it might be true but may not be the answer. It has to answer the question in the context of the question. So in the context of horizontal gene transfer, answer will be option D. So what is the author most likely to disagree with? What is the author most likely to disagree with? The author is most likely to disagree with the fact that all the bacteria are similar in weight, are less in weight than other life. It is incorrect. It is opposite. All the bacteria weigh, I think, 5 times or sometimes more than all the life put together. It's given clearly in the passage, which is the second last line of the passage. So this is the correct answer. This is correct, hence this is not the answer. This is correct, hence it's not the answer. So they help us digest B2 and B12. They reproduce quickly, and we cannot replace our genes. All this is true. Disagree will be option A. Bacteria is the plural of bacterium, but virus is not the singular of virus, virium or whatever. Virus is viruses. Everyone knows it. It's a knowledge-based question. Hence, the answer will be none of the above. You had to know this. What is the plural of virus? Based on the above information, Is it that there are far more bacteria in the world than humans, and what is it? What is the reason for it? So tell me, what would be the reason? Naturally, that they reproduce faster. It's a very simple question, and therefore your answer will be option B. Right? So very simple passage. I think most of you would have got all questions correct here. Now, this is a basically contemporary discussion based passage. Right? So the nature of this passage is the fact that it is a contemporary issue and the author is discussing it with you. Looking at, what all would mean when we go with the delete Facebook drive, starting with an example of a woman who was so scared that she had, jeopardized the privacy and security of a kid, and the reasoning on her behalf, why is it that we are suffering, why is it that tech companies are not suffering at all. So the monopoly of the tech companies, in fact in CP mocks we have taken up this topic twice in our mocks as to monopoly of the tech giants. In the mock we had spoken about Amazon, so just look for that mock. The very first question on this is a specific detail question. So let me move to the questions here. So why did Tanya Richards panic? It's clearly given why Tanya Richards panicked, and the options are very simple. So it's easy to eliminate options A and B, I think, and your answer will be option C. Because she had sent her son's location updates to her mother, and she chose Facebook Messenger because it was supposed to be private and safe, right? And the rest of the options are not because the son was a Facebook user or anything. So very, very far and wide options. Far and wide option means you are not confused with another option. And why did she refuse to delete Facebook? Again, it's clearly given in the second paragraph, because, she is the one who's to lose everything. If she deletes it, how will she connect with her family? But nothing will happen to Facebook because it has billions of users, right? So all these options are easy to eliminate because she did not want Mark Zuckerberg to relish seeing this, right? And she did not see the fact that deleting Facebook is going to harm her son. She was just scared that using Facebook might have harmed her son. So in the passage, the author says that the political issue will change to an willpower issue. That means the author believes it is a political issue. So if such a thing would happen, that everyone deleted Facebook to create an actual impact on Facebook, so this whole thing from a political issue. So the author thinks it's a political issue, and hence the answer is option A. Now, why are people right in having an impulse to delete Facebook? So the author feels that it's not going to create an impact, but it is understandable, because if this act is able to send a message to the company, so this is correct, right? We have to mark the answer which is incorrect. So if it sends a message to the company, it is understandable, right? Or if it sends a message to lawmakers, it is understandable, right? Or because it shows the political system is very, very lousy. But of course, this has not been mentioned, option D. In fact, the author says it, sarcastically, that wow, so many people are thinking about not deleting Facebook, might just make Mark Zuckerberg very happy. So Mark Zuckerberg has been mentioned, but in the context that Mark Zuckerberg will feel so proud of the fact that people are actually scared of deleting Facebook. So this is not mentioned, and hence it is incorrect. And again, then you have a word-based question from the passage. This word-based question actually had to be answered in the context of the passage, where in the context of the passage it shows, a political lousy affair, right? It is easy to eliminate option B, option C. Gridlock basically just shows that you have very few options, isn't it? So all these can therefore be eliminated. It's not a point of no return. It's basically, that you have very few options. You are not happy with the options available in front of you. Now, the given sentence had to be made grammatically correct. Very simple grammar has been asked. So all those who have not really studied grammar, at least here, with basic grammar knowledge from your basic classrooms, we have done grammar sessions with you. That should be enough. So the impulse to delete Facebook is understandable in an era of political gridlock and dysfunction. So do you see the fact that it's in a state of dysfunction. You're not happy with what is going on. It feels good to start somewhere, right? There is the hope that, so the hope has been defined over here. Usually you don't use the with hope. There is hope that things will improve. But when you are emphasizing on the hope part, the is fine. So that waves of deletions will send. You never use past form of a verb with will and shall. So this is what has to be changed. And therefore the answer will be option B. The answer will be option B. Right? Will send. And finally, word-based question again. Dissension means dissent, disagree. So the correct answer for antonym is concurrence. Please note that assent is the opposite of dissent, not this. So there is ASSENT and DISSENT. There is ASCENT, which is this word. This means up, and its opposite is DESCENT, which means down, or it also means your future generations. Again, down. Down means people coming after you. So there are two assents and two dissents, and both are opposites to each other, ASS and ASC. Similarly, DISS and DESC. Same pronunciation, so homophones. Then we come to a social history passage. So this passage, let's write down what this passage is. This is a social history passage. Where the author talks about the two types of the two nascent congresses that had begun, one for political this thing and the other was for social purposes. So these two and what transpired between them. So one was known as the National Congress and the other was known as the Social Conference. What ensued, again, it's an informative passage, informative fact-based passage, and options are, questions over here are specific detail based. So what reason does the author give? You just had to find out the reason from the passage. It's given in the second paragraph, first line. Second paragraph, first line, and your answer is option B, option C. So why was the social conference founded? Because at that time it was believed that social stigmas related to the majority religion, they had to change for the country to progress together. So this is given in second paragraph, first line, very, very clearly. Specific detailed question. What What is the author most likely to agree with? Again, the answer is given very clearly. There is no doubt that you will be able to eliminate the other answer options over here. They didn't have a pandal. That's not the reason. I'm sure you can know and see that, or the fact that they did not need any reform. Hindu society did not need any reform. No, it just took a back seat, right? And this answer is given very clearly in option B. Why, according to the author, did the National Congress and the Social Conference become hostile? Question number 4.3. So naturally they became hostile because they disagreed over what should happen first. Again, I'm sure you will be able to eliminate the pandal option or the date of meeting. So it's a very easy question. Very simple options to eliminate, right? Then in the first 10 years, after they became hostile with each other, what was the outcome? Naturally, the outcome was that neither side was able to overcome the other. So they reached a deadlock. What is the meaning of ebbing away? Simple word question. Ebbing away basically means declining or decaying. So again, a simple passage, something like this. We still have one passage to two more passages to go over, but something like this. English RC would mean that you are at least able to score around, around 30, what do you call it, so you're at least able to score around 25 plus, 26 plus in this section. So this is again a simple passage on an interview, and a crime report or current affair report from the state, and somewhere revolving around the election time and what is needed and who is a Bahubali, the guns, illegal guns that are there in the state. So 5.1 is a simple question. The moonlight shone on the gun. That means this conversation is happening at night. I think all of you got this. What is the meaning of machismo? Basically, machismo means something which is related to the masculine pride, where your ego gets satisfaction. And machismo means the male ego. And the best answer therefore here is option D. While machismo involves qualities attributed as characteristic of men, right? But that is mostly masculinity. The protection of masculinity, the pride in masculinity is machismo, and hence the answer is option D. So two simple questions that came your way. What can be inferred except, right? So you just had to match what Guddu had been saying. So the very first thing cannot be inferred, and hence it is the answer. Guns are needed because the villagers feel that a politician who has guns can get their job done. So it's the opposite of what is given. B, C and D can be found out in the passage. What is the implication of the underlined paragraph in the passage? So that part where just the small line that is underlined, that he aims at me and pulls the trigger. It is empty, but you should have seen the expression. So he was just pulling the trigger out of fun, right? So that answer, that is not actually contained in the answer option, but the fact was that Kuttu was just jesting. He was not trying to harm the author. But in the answer option, they should have kept that element of fun in it, but they did not. Anyways, who is most likely to be voted to par? It's a simple analogy question. Remember, we saw the first analogy question in the first question of the first passage. Here again is a simple analogy question. Whatever has been stated in the passage, bearing that in mind, you have to choose. Raju, is he likely to be voted to par? He doesn't have guns, but he has goons with guns, yes. Handful of guns? No, they're supposed to have many guns and loyalty. No loyalty means no. Does not have guns, does not have loyalty. Sorry, even if he's honest, will not be voted. Isn't it? And Rana does not have guns, but has a support of law-abiding people. Sorry. So this is just I think a sarcastic question on the state of affairs in our political scenario. People with guns are winning, people with goons are winning, people with law-abiding citizen or betterment are usually not winning. Anyway. And finally, the passage on Manto. It's such a deep passage, though the questions are simple, but the passage is so deep that it's Manto. So Manto, basically, this is an allegorical passage, you know, where Manto, through the example of lunatics, tries to comment on the partition of India and Pakistan. So if you read this, and if you read Manto in general, you will really understand the deep-seated meanings in his works. So with the example, you know, the example where the lunatic climbed on the tree and said, no, I don't want to go to India or Pakistan, I want to live here. This was the state of affairs with most people who were displaced in the partition. They just wanted to be home. They didn't really care about those boundaries that were created. So, you know, through this simple story, you know, through this simple allegorical story, you know, this whole message is brought out. So questions are simple, but the meaning of the passage is so deep. Okay, so I was actually trying to write allegorical here. Let me write it first. Allegorical. Right, where the story seems to be about lunatics and the story seems to be about different people, but behind it there is a deeper meaning for the nation, right? So that's an allegory. All right, 6.1 is a simple question, and you know, barely you will take 5 seconds to answer. So these are the people who are basically in India, right? Muslim lunatics whose families were still residing in India were to be left undisturbed, right? So this is what we were talking about. Then why? So which of the following sentences best explains why the families of some murderers had them committed? It's given clearly so that they escape capital punishment. I hope you've got this. Option D. What is the author? So again, a word-based question. Fire eating. Fire eating means very sensational, very violent. Hence option A. And why does the author say that the question of keeping non-Muslim lunatics in Pakistan did not arise? Again, fact-based question, it is given. Why? Because most of them who had to leave had left. So most of the non-Muslim population from Pakistan had already left. Not the lunatics, but the non-Muslim population. And then the final question, I wish to live neither in India nor in Pakistan. I wish to live in the tree. Basically, as I was telling you, the essence of the story of Manto, the fact that, and anyway, the options were so easy to eliminate, you would have reached the answer yourself. Many people just wanted to be home, right? So that is clearly given in option C. So because the options are simple and easy to eliminate, I think most of you would have reached C on your own and actually would have realized the deep-seated meaning behind the story of lunatics. What has to be done with these people, you know? So through a simple story and through this message and, you know, this little sarcastic line on razors, you know the fact that this is where in India, place in India where cutthroat razors are made. You know, this was supposed to be sarcastic. This was supposed to lend humor. You know, and people were quiet. Yes, yes, he is a lunatic. You know, they were just trying to understand whether they understood the concept of partition. So through this story, you know, with this little ingenuity and with this little witticism that Manto has ingrained, you know, it's a very nice and sweet little tale, but has such a deep-seated meaning on this thing about displacement through this narration of the lunatics. And this little humorous bit there, Pakistan is where cutthroat razors are made. So that's that from my side for today. Sample paper 1, English section, children. And again, maybe you can redo the paper and check this discussion as to why some answers are chosen and the others are eliminated. Most of this paper, easy to eliminate options, different types of passages, word-based questions, grammar-based questions, specific detailed questions, theme-based questions have been asked. Unlike 2022 May paper for 2022 exam, this is 2023 exam in December. So the 2022 paper that happened, where you had been asked figures of speech, one question with a hint of figures of speech was asked. So in the sample paper 1, we did not see any of that kind, but you do have to prepare it for the paper again that will happen in December. So again, as I said, figures of speech questions are there in all our mocks. You must go back, revise the figure of speech, read the passage to understand the figure of speech again. Thank you so much for your time, everyone. And we will be able to take up any doubts in the classes or separately. Thank you.